Let me just say this. This is a sad day. Same comment that I made earlier. This is a sad day for Kentucky. It really is. Because the problem that we had, we continue to have, and that is a drastically underfunded pension system that is, for all intents and purposes, already a failed pension system. There is not enough money to meet the obligations to either the current retirees, let alone the current retirees, plus the people working toward retirement. And that problem didn't go away. It honestly makes me sad when I hear people celebrate and dance upon their own financial graves. When people cheer the fact that the system is now in worse condition than it ever was, and that the only effort that has been made in recent years to truly stop the future bleeding, the only significant effort, has been struck down, and that there wasn't enough intestinal fortitude to carry it forward. Let me be very, very clear. The people that you've heard from, including Speaker Osborne, he did a good job. He came back and tried to rally folks forward, as did all the other leadership in both the House, and it was a little less of an issue for the Senate at this point because of where it started. This isn't a function of the intent of leadership or a desire on the part of most people who came here. They did do what they should have done. They came back and attempted to fix this before the downgrades come, before this problem is exacerbated. They came up short. It happens. It's nobody's fault. It's just the reality. The votes are there or the votes are not there. This should never have even been a question of one party's for it and one party's not. The vast majority of people who are retirees happen to be Democrats. Always have been, continue to be. The vast majority of people that are in the system now working toward retirement are also Democrats. If ever there was a party that should have led on this, it should be the Democrat Party. It should be the leaders in the House that should have been rallying, trying to find a solution, coming up with a way to save this system. Instead, they are literally, through some of the most remarkable hypocrisy, which was appropriately called out by the Speaker, some of the most posturing, self-aggrandizing, posturing and hypocrisy I've ever seen. People are pretending that they weren't part of the very problem. They've punted on this and abdicated on it for years. They don't have a solution. Have you asked any of the people in opposition to this what their solution is? They don't have one. There is none. The problem is a huge problem. And for anybody who is in the retirement system or is working toward hoping to someday have a retirement, this is a dark and sad day. What questions do you have?
Governor, what do you say to people who, leaving here empty-handed tonight? What do you say? How do you respond to people saying this was a waste of time and money?
No, to do the right thing is never a waste of time and money. To attempt to save the system, to agree with that statement would to say, let anybody who happens to be expecting a retirement check just go blow in the wind. That's hardly what we want to say, not even a little bit. That's absolutely the wrong approach. It is worth every bit of effort, every dollar spent, every hour spent. And some of these legislators came a long way in good faith to try to do the right thing. It's worth every bit of that to try to do the right thing. It is always worth it to do the right thing. Understand, from my standpoint, I don't know if you've figured this out at this point. I hope you have. I'm not particularly motivated by political inspiration. I don't do things for political purpose. This session was called, and I applaud those who came here in good faith in an attempt to save the pension system for non-political reasons, but because to do so is the right thing to do. And I would do it again in a heartbeat, and they would come and attempt to do it again in a heartbeat for those who came here in good faith. As well they should. And the people of Kentucky who sent them here should feel good about that. Trust me, if the concern is money spent, we sure waste a whole lot of money in government at the federal level, state level, and at local levels. It should never be considered a waste to be trying to do the right thing on behalf of the people of Kentucky, ever.
Take us into the conversation that you had with the House and Senate leaders, and at what point today did they realize that this was not going to continue?
I can't speak for at what point today they realized what, and in fairness, I don't want to share privileged conversation, other than to say that it was a very amicable, straightforward conversation. I have tremendous respect for these guys, I do. I appreciate the fact that they came into the best of their ability, they went to the well and tried to do what was right. But I will say right now, and this is a fact, it's not a shocker, there are people who come to this town who do not come in good faith. They are people who come here with their own personal and political agendas. And they are willing to put those agendas ahead of what is best for Kentucky. That is a shame. That does not apply to the people that I've been meeting with in House and Senate leadership. They came here to do the right thing. They did it to the best of their ability. They did do the right thing. They came up short. The votes were not there to be able to get this done. This is not good for Kentucky. Any more than if you suddenly found that your personal credit score went from 700 to 400, pick a number, I don't know. Your ability to borrow money, the rates at which you'd be able to borrow it if somebody would even lend it to you, what that means in terms of people's confidence in you, all these things that would apply to you individually, the same things on a much larger scale apply to the Commonwealth of Kentucky. We have a lot of wood yet to chop. This is a sad day. It really is.
Governor, the Speaker said that they came in prepared to pass 151 again, and they were surprised by the changes that you had made in the bill.
I don't draft bills. Understand this. I don't draw bills. I don't. Understand this, please. The only people that can pass a bill, all the drafters report to the legislature. Bills are drawn up by and are operated by the legislature. With respect to confusion or not, I don't know. I've not even read that whole bill. I've not. The point is this: anything in this I would question. I don't believe he said this, and I would be amazed if he did, because there's nothing in these bills, and I've not read every word of them, but what I understand of them, not one thing in Senate bill. There were two bills that were brought forward. There was Bill 1, every single thing in it, for which they're saying there are not votes even enough for that. Every single thing in it, they already passed as part of 151. There was nothing in it that was not part of 151. It was a lesser version. It was removing components that they'd been sued on or were still contentious. Exactly which ones, I don't know, but it was a lesser version of 151. There was nothing in House Bill 1 that was not in 151. It was everything in 151 minus some things with nothing additional added. Of that I am sure. And it's clear that the appetite that was there to even get 151 done wasn't there to get a lesser version of it done. This doesn't bode well for Kentucky.
How big of a priority should this be in January?
Huge. It is the biggest financial concern that Kentucky has. And it's not just to the legislature. It should be of great concern to the taxpayers. It should be of great concern, certainly, to the people who worked for the state or are working for the state and were promised a pension. The odds of them getting that pension just went down dramatically tonight. It has got to be a priority, or those people are up a creek. So too are the taxpayers. So too are the bankers. So too are the employers. So too are anybody affected in any way, shape, or form by the financial solvency of this state. This may be one of the worst financial days to have ever descended upon the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Doesn't have to be the final day. Doesn't mean this dark day can't become a day where optimism and hope occurs again. But we're not off to a strong start. We're not. There'll be a new legislature that will be coming in. The same leadership who came in good faith will come back in good faith. That I'm sure. I want to reiterate something, please. My respect for these guys is immense. It really is. And I'm grateful. We've had very good, amicable dialogue. And it's a different day and age than it once was. The irony that people talk about lack of transparency, there's never been more transparency, certainly in my lifetime in this state over the last decades, and probably for those of you watching this, than there is right now. Things are done in the way in which they should be. People don't always like the way things are done, but we've had good dialogue, and I'm grateful for it. But boy, it better still be a priority. Yes?
Governor Bevin, between the Supreme Court's decision and then coming up short tonight, ending this session, How discouraged are you? And if you seek a second term,
Not.
do you make this a priority, or at this point, do you just kind of put it on a back burner?
No, gracious, we can't afford to put it on the back burner. This is what I hope people don't understand. It doesn't matter whether I'm running for office or not. It doesn't matter whether I'm the governor or not. It doesn't go away. This isn't being made up. I don't know if any of you have realized this yet, but this is not politically advantageous. This isn't the kind of thing that curries favor, makes people feel good and say we can rally around that. It scares the blazes out of people to talk about failing pension systems because they don't understand it. And that's okay. Why should they? It's like a foreign language. But it affects them and they know that. It doesn't matter what happens with me personally, with these legislators personally, with any future legislature, this problem still exists. It has to be on the docket. So for me and for anyone else that would purport to be in a leadership position or hope to be in a leadership position, this better be a top priority because it's going to be whether they want it to be or not. They could talk about it or not. For the last 20 plus years in Kentucky, they've not talked about it. They've whistled right past the graveyard and pretended it didn't exist, but it exists. I think people are aware of that now. The problem just got worse.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Governor.
Thank you, guys. You're welcome.